Good morning, Representative Conklin. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is the Philly Youth Vote candidate interviews. This week we're interviewing all 7 of the PA Auditor General candidates that are running for this position on June 2nd. This morning we have Representative Scott Conklin, who's currently a representative in the District 77. And he's running for PA Auditor General, and I understand also for re-election as a district member of the House. So this morning, my students in my social science class are interviewing the candidate at Central High School. And I just want to kind of let folks know that also that if you can register for a mail-in ballot, it's very important to do so because a lot of our polling places, especially in Philadelphia and other cities, are going to, a lot of those polling places are going to shut down or be moved around. So getting a mail-in ballot looks like this. Got mine already. It comes with when you pull everything out, everything is written in English and Spanish. You get a ballot that you fill out. You get 2 envelopes, a secret inner envelope and an outer envelope. You get detailed instructions in English and Spanish, and then you get a description of the ballot questions. And you got to make sure you read the instructions very carefully, because if you don't do everything exactly as it says, then your ballot might not count. So for example, you have to put your ballot in the inner envelope when you're done marking it, and then into the outer envelope. And then on the outer envelope, you have to fill out a statement in here and sign it. And seal everything. And in Philadelphia, we're lucky because our commissioners have paid the postage, so you don't have to put a stamp on it. Then you put it in the mailbox and mail it yourself. Okay, got to get there to the office by June 2nd. So make sure you do that, very important. So I want to get started here with the representative and candidate for Auditor General, Scott Conklin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to jump over to, bear with me, just stop presenting here. Okay, there you are. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to the students to ask you a number of questions. Zoe, you're up.
Good morning. Can you please tell us just a bit about your background, education, and experience?
Thanks, Zoe. I was actually born and raised right in central Pennsylvania. In fact, I grew up just outside of Penn State University, where I still live today. My father was a carpenter. My mother never graduated high school. She earned a living scrubbing the floors at the local hospital in the school. I'm the youngest of 5 children. Like most large families, we had the opportunities in our life to work hard and to understand what it's like not only to struggle, but I always tell people that struggling is what makes you what you are. Steel is forged in fire, not in lukewarm. So for myself, my father was a carpenter, so that's what you were supposed to do. You followed your father's footsteps. I became a carpenter, started my own company in my early 30s, did about 250 to 300 customers a year, homes. I was a national director for the Builders Association. In fact, today I still run a retail store. I became a commissioner, elected in 1999. We were able to do that for 2 terms. And why I was there, I always tell folks, it's not what you do because you have to, it's what you do above and beyond what you have to do. So I was commissioner in 2001. We did the first no discrimination policy in Center County, which means it doesn't matter your ethnicity, who you love, your gender. You cannot be discriminated against. Build a new county jail, but not to incarcerate or warehouse. We actually emphasized on rehabilitation. Became a representative in 2006. In 2007, we stopped the midnight voting, transparency. What you see today, what you can go online, is because of what myself and my colleagues did. I was the chairman of Children and Youth when we had to do all the background checks, such as your teacher. And as you get older, you'll have to get those certificates if you want to be around children or be in large groups. And today, I'm the statewide gaming oversight chairman, which means I oversee the casino legislation. And I apologize, I'll try to make it fast because I know you only have a few minutes per.
Thank you.
Can you please describe the responsibilities and powers of the Auditor General?
The Auditor General is probably, in my opinion, one of the, if not the most important part of government itself. For an Auditor General, you not only have to do the audits on all your state dollars and many of your federal dollars that come in, so such as overseeing where the money's spent in the prisons, where it's spent with the children and youth, across the board, but you also have the ability to use that position as a position to where you can implement policy. And the reason it's so important to understand that is that the Auditor General not only has to work with the executive branch, but they also have to work with the legislative branch. See, the Auditor General himself only has the powers that's given to him by the Constitution. Those powers are to audit those state dollars that you will pay and your parents and grandparents have paid for years. But in order to be able to enhance that office, the Auditor General must also understand the legislative process and the executive process, which basically you have to understand how the Senate and the House works. You have to understand how local government works. For myself, and we have other great candidates running, that I believe is what sets me apart, is because I've been part of those processes. I understand how it works. But most of all, I want to use the position as a way to advocate for better schools, better education, more transparency, making sure that those who believe they're above the law, whether it's large corporations or whatever it may be, cannot use those powers to abuse the money they're given. And that's where I believe I'll be most effective. And I oftenly joke, I say, not only do I know where the bodies are buried, I know who buried them and I know where they hid the shovel. And the truth is I do. After 21 years of public service, I can pretty much see the faults that have happened over the years. And one of the reasons I want to become Auditor General is to be able to correct those faults and make it more transparent and more streamlined for the public.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amalia Nasova. I was wondering, why are you running to be Auditor General?
Because I believe in the position. See, years ago, before I got into government, I was much like many people when I was younger, that we always thought that government was out to get you. But after I became a county commissioner and I oversaw the prisons and the roads and the senior centers and the nursing homes, I began to understand government is not about you, it's about the position you hold. And the reason I want to become Auditor General, I see an opportunity that I'll be able to use the experience that people have given me, not just to talk about it, but to the in-depth experience, to know exactly how everything's done, how every part of the county and the state operates. And I want to use that experience. So I want to be able to advocate for what we believe in. As I said, better schools, the environment, fairness, equity. I want to use all the things that I've done in my past, be able to be a good Auditor General, but most of all, be an advocate, especially for those individuals who don't have that voice, be able to bring their voices forward.
Hi, my name is Ines Milan, and I wanted to ask, I wanted to ask, as our country and state are coming back from economic effects of COVID, what are you going to do to help the efforts in coming back for businesses and workers?
One of the things as an Auditor General that we're going to have to understand is that we have a lot of work to do when this is over. We have to look exactly how it's done. See, one of the things I really do enjoy doing is sitting down and dissecting what's been done. In 2002, I actually was the chairman for the State Courts and Corrections for the County Commissioners Association. And we wrote the recidivism of the prisons today that they use. I mean, the recidivism rates then what they use today. What we're going to have to do, there's been a lot of federal money and state money that's being spent during this operation. We're going to have to go in, audit those operations, make sure that it's done effectively. When you do a performance audit, it's not done to say I got somebody or it's done in a political way. It's done to look what was done right and what was done incorrectly. I will tell you, as a small businessman, it's been devastating to small business. Many businesses are not going to recover. It's been devastating to many of those individuals who were underemployed because they didn't have the hours in or the weeks in. There are going to be people who will take years and years to recover. People ask me, aren't they going to get money? But I can tell you, people who I work with and people in my family, not just missing a paycheck, but missing one day's work is devastating. So as the Auditor General, we're going to not only have to look at a way to performance to make sure that that money was done correctly and how to improve it in the future, but we also have to make sure that those monies were spent correctly, and the individuals that were needing those funds, not only in the future will get them, but will get them much more quickly and on a timely manner, so they don't struggle, and many people are going hungry today because of that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. PA taxpayers pay $18 million a year for the Keystone exams that high school students have to take. What is your stance on standardized tests? Do you feel like these tests provide a racial disadvantage or advantage? And do you believe that they are necessary?
One of the things that, as a legislator, we've tried to get rid of the Keystone exams. One of the problem with standardized testing is that you have to be able to try to take a formula and one size fits all. And the way a young person thinks in rural Pennsylvania to urban Pennsylvania to suburban Pennsylvania are entirely different. What they learn at home, what they learn when they're in their neighborhood, what they learn from their friends is totally different. So one of the reasons that testing was first implemented years ago was not to be able to punish the school you're in or to be able to punish the individual taking it, but the testing was originally implemented as a way that when you move from 3rd to 4th grade or when you move from 11th to 12th grade, it was done to see where you needed improvement. But instead, we've used that as an easy way to say whether this school or that school is adhering to it. So as far as the Keystone's exams are done, we have to be able to go back and undo many of the mistakes that the politicians have made. And one of the problems is, and I'll try to wrap up because I know you're on a short time, is that politicians many times get one voice in their ear, and that's the voice they listen and they move forward. They don't do it to be wrong or to think they're doing something bad, but the ability to do policy is to be able to sit down and listen and work. That's why when I tell you I chaired and I did the recidivism rate for prisons, it took me 2 years to do that. As a county commissioner, we would work with outside groups to make sure that it was done correctly. One of the only changes when I came to the House is that I found that we don't work for the best policy, we work for the best political movement. The reason I want to become Auditor General is that I believe we can look at those inadequacies, those inequities, and we can use that as an advocacy, as a way that we can do performance, not just the entailed dollars and cents, but working to make sure that these type of programs are done to help the student and not just to make it a lazy way for politicians to see or to stereotype or to label somebody.
Thank you.
How important is student safety in the communities they go to school in? How would you go about making communities safer for students who perhaps walk or bike to school?
When you look at the way the state is, and you look at the neighborhoods, every zip code is different. I always tell individuals that you are who you are, no matter what zip code you're in. If you go from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, you're still the same person. But as a legislator, you'll see where I'm the one that made, when you go to college, when you go to that initial, it was my piece of legislation where it shows you the do's and don'ts, how to stay safe. As the chairman of Children and Youth, I was the one that had to implement all those background checks to make sure that children were safe, whether it was in a daycare center or in a high school. One of the most important things about going to school is to know that not only are you safe when you get there, but you're safe on the way there. And many students don't have the same opportunities. And again, it comes down to getting my colleagues who live in a rural area to understand what it's like to live in a place to where there's a lot of individuals without hope, a lot of individuals who are undereducated, a lot of individuals who are underemployed, that they panic and they do things that they normally wouldn't do. Our job as a legislator is to make sure that when you leave your house in the morning, that that there are individuals in place to make sure that as you go from block A to block B to school, that you're safe getting there. Plus, once you're in school, that we continue to improve and make more changes, that you're safe the whole time you're there as well.
Thank you.
What will you do to provide more resources for students' mental health?
One of the most important things for myself, I always tell folks, if you have something that's wrong in your life, or if you have something that's wrong around your life, you run up the flagpole. Don't try to hide it. For myself, I have seen within my own family emotional distress. I lost my brother to a drug overdose because of emotional distress. When you look at young people's mental health, many times people don't understand exactly what it's like today growing up, especially folks of my generation. There was no Facebook. We would never have thought of doing what I'm doing today. The pressures that you as a young person must endure is 1,000 times harder than it was for your parents to endure. That when we would get picked on in school when I was younger, when we left, it was over. Today, it goes on night and day. So as your teacher will tell you, as a legislator, your mental health and making sure that you understand that there's someone there to talk to, someone there that's going to listen, but also understand that as things come out of balance, it's not your fault. That much like any engine or anything that's not working correctly, it needs fine-tuned periodically. So not only as we make sure you have the resources that's needed, we make sure that young people understand that those feelings you're having are normal, but it's not your job to keep it to yourself, that there are people there you can reach out to, talk to, and get the help you need to make sure that tomorrow is a better day than today.
What will you do to make sure Pennsylvania schools are fairly funded so Philly students can get an equal education to students living in wealthier suburbs?
One of the things that we did under then Governor Ed Randell when I was there, we actually did a fair funding formula. We finally got it implemented. We funded full-day kindergartens. We made sure that schools were based on their need and not just because they were rich and they had more political pull. In fact, I was down in Chester Uplands, and I didn't realize that the district next to me was then the appropriations chairman's district. And I said, it's a sin that not only did then the governor at that time get rid of the fair funding formula, but the wealthiest district in that part of the state received twice as much money as the poorest district. And I didn't realize it was a gentleman's district. We actually had an altercation after that. But we as a legislative body must understand, to use the Kennedy terms, all ships rise. You have to have the tide bring in and all ships can rise. You cannot continue to have a disparity. We cannot continue to judge people by the zip code or the neighborhood they come from. Because anybody in business with half a business mind or half a social mind will tell you that the best way to improve an economy is to take that individual in the poorest neighborhood and get them out of that, but also give them the ability to be able to change their own neighborhood. And until we invest in our most precious resource, which is you, we're going to continue to have this disparity. So as Auditor General, you'll see me do, again, there is the audit that you do to show the finances, and there's the audits that you do to show performance, and there's the advocacy. As an Auditor General, you'll continue. I sat on education for many years. You'll continue to see me do that advocacy to make sure that no matter where you live, no matter what neighborhood you're in, that you have the ability to have the same resources as any other child, because we will benefit from you going further in your life.
Thank you.
It's sort of like speed dating. You just keep going through this.
Hello, good morning. So can you please answer this question? What is a fun fact about you?
Well, anybody that knows me would tell you I'm a bit eccentric. I am, of course, I don't know if you ever seen my thing, that my English bulldog's still in bed. She's getting old, or should be sitting here next to me. But one of the things I do is I actually play in the church praise team. I play in a gospel band. I also played in a rock band for many, many years. My wife saved me. I actually do still play today. I actually do a whole Elvis tribute show along with old time rock and roll. I collect vintage bicycles from the 50s and 60s. They're called tank bikes. I love old cars. If you come to my garage, there's 3 in them in there right now. I like vintage motorcycles. If you come, I have vintage motorcycles as well. My wife keeps saying I just refuse to grow up. In fact, she's never worried about me going through the midlife crisis because I've never grown up or gotten mature enough, as she says, to go through that. So as you could say, if you're going to describe me, you could describe me as a bit eccentric at times. But most of all, I believe that life's for living, that it doesn't matter whether you're 5 or 500, that you should do what you enjoy, that you should do what you enjoy. But most of all, you should be respectful and understand that what you enjoy may not be what somebody else enjoys, but you should still enjoy what you're doing, enjoy what you have, and enjoy life most of all, because it's about living.
Hi. Why is it important for young people to vote?
Well, why is it important for young people to vote? Because you have a voice. I mean, your voice, your vote counts as much as the US Senator. Your vote counts as much as the mayor of Philadelphia. Your voice is even stronger. As an elected official, I often tell people that if you want to build a structural base, if you want to build, if you want to build something, you never build from the top down, you build from the bottom up. And one of the reasons why I love doing what I'm doing today, working with you or going into my local schools, is that you actually ask questions that no one else would ask. You're still inquisitive. You haven't been narrowed into that little thought of that it's the way it is, it's the way it's been, it's the way it's always going to be. You still want things to improve. You still want to make not only a better life for yourself, but you actually still care about your neighbors and your fellow students in your neighborhood. And that's why it's important for you to vote, because you want to make things better. You have not boxed yourself into that one way of thinking or that linear thinking. You still think abstract. You still think of different ways that you want to see things done. And you'll ask questions that no one else will ask. And by the way, most things that are done by people your age. Most things that 5 or 10 years from now will be thought of by you today. So that's why it's so important for you to vote, because your vote does count and you do have that ability to do more than what someone, say, my age will be able to do.
Representative Scott Conklin, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this. I have one quick question for you to throw out there. I saw that you are running for Auditor General, but you're also running for re-election as state representative. What happens if you win nominations for both?
If I win the Auditor General nomination, I will replace myself on the ballot. They'll put somebody in my place by August. That's one of the reasons we're worried that they were going to extend it past again. To say just a quick political answer to that, when I was elected state representative in 2006, there were 5 state representatives from Central Pennsylvania. The irony of the whole situation is that 4 of them were Democratic districts, 1 was Republican. I won the Republican district. Today, when you leave Philadelphia, you'll find a state representative in Harrisburg, and then I'm the only state representative you'll find between there and Pittsburgh. So if my district would do a special election, the Speaker of the House would pick that election if I would win the Auditor General seat. And that special election in State College in the university town would be on St. Patrick's Day, just like he did the last special just in Philly. And Democrats in my area will not be there. Students will not be there. Professors will not be there. Teachers will not be there. They vacation that week. And my seat will most likely flip to a Republican. And again, it's not I hate to make it sound political, but the people in my district, both Republican, Democrat, Independent, have been very, very good to me. And I want to make sure that the most amount of people in my district have the ability to vote for their state representative. So if I win the Auditor General nominee on June 2nd, I will allow them to replace me on the ballot with somebody from my district so that people can vote on them, and I will just be running for the
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in and letting my students ask you questions and responding. Do you have any last comments you want to make before we go?
It's going to sound corny, but your students are young, they're inquisitive. It's your life, live it. As a gentleman who's lived his life, and if you've heard me, I still do what I believe that's best for my neighborhood, but I still enjoy life. Enjoy life. Doesn't matter where you grow up, where you're at. My mother still lives in a mobile home park. I grew up struggling. It's the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Just keep working hard and you will succeed. It doesn't matter what you want to do in your life. You will succeed.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And good luck in your campaign.
Thank you.
All right. And have a great day.
You too. And I'll try to turn myself off without being too embarrassing.
That's right. I'm going to jump over to my last slides here to wrap up. And so we just heard from Representative Scott Conklin, who is running for PA Auditor General. I want to thank him again. And I want to remind everyone to register to vote if you have not done so already. The deadline to register is May 18th, and you can register at tinyurl.com/PAVotes2020. If you are registered already, you should vote by mail. You need to register. It's a two-step process to apply for a mail-in ballot. So you have to do the application at votespa.com. And then once you've applied, then they will mail you the ballot to your house. Lastly, if you want to get involved in getting students to register to vote at school in Philadelphia, contact Philly Youth Vote or Vote That Jawn. This coming Saturday, we're going to do a house party with Vote That Jawn to register people to vote via texting. We're going to have a lot of DJs. DJ Jazzy Jeff is going to be there and others. And then locally and internationally, you can join When We All Vote. So thanks again for joining us, and have a great day. See you at the polls.
Bye.